This hour brought to you by Brookline Bank.
Time now for EEI Late Night with KJ.
Should we be talking a little bit more about the Patriots now? Everything's coming together.
Well, absolutely, because we've talked on this show for a long time. Bill Belichick really could care less about September. It's an extension of the preseason. He wants his teams to be playing well in November and December. And what are they doing right now? They're playing really well. Mac Jones looks like a veteran quarterback out there, making good decisions, throwing the ball with accuracy and timing. The defense was outstanding. A couple of picks yesterday for J.C. Jackson. Like, you're starting to see this team that we thought we'd see at the beginning of the year. You're seeing it now. And I'm not ready to say the AFC East is going to Buffalo just yet. I am not ready to make that statement just yet.
Turn it up, Justin Hurd. It's been a long time. We've been feeling good about the Patriots. It's KJ Late Night here on WEEI. So good to be back with you. And how many other shows would start off with Booger McFarland quoting? I mean, if you told me 3 weeks ago that the Patriots were going to be on the hunt for a wild card, I would have asked, they have wild cards in Pop Warner? You know, the kids, they're named after, I play for the Eagles, I play for the Patriots, are really good in Pop. This looks totally different. Last time I was here right before the Chargers game, that was literally do or die for the Pats. They've won every game since, and with a win Sunday, a month straight of winning. Now, a loss could have meant that Bill would have had to sell off some of these shiny toys that he bought over the year, at the beginning of the year. But now, some of those toys are starting to tick. And the Tom versus Bill argument, let's come back to that, because for those who thought that argument was over when Tom won the Super Bowl, I was one that said, hey, Tom had to prove something right away. Bill had to prove something pretty soon. A little bit different, right? Tom, hey, you got all the weapons, everything that New England wouldn't buy for you. Congratulations, you did it. The real question that everybody had was, and still does, but now it's seeming to get a little clearer. Can Bill do this without Brady? Is this really possible? We're about to see the actual greatness of Bill Belichick starting to roll, because there's no Tom. I mean, think about what you were saying about the receivers earlier in the year. Oh, the offensive line. I mean, it was a disaster 3 weeks ago. It almost felt like the sunburst was starting to fade, like the sunburst on the Jimmy Page guitar. It was starting to fade on Bill's mystique. GM overspent, got players who aren't producing. Jonnu Smith's tipped pass for an interception really started getting people wondering about Bill's GM skills. And yet here we are, because of so many things that happened last week. I'll tell you about those, if you might know, but just how almost in a perfect storm things have laid out for Bill Belichick to potentially be the coach of the year. It's possible. In fact, Michael Irvin was on Gresh and Keefe earlier this week and says, look, the Pats are not surprising people in the AFC.
Michael Irvin, we got to ask you about the 5-4 New England Patriots. This is an ascending football team. Are you seeing what maybe here we're seeing? Because we're in the belly of the beast and we're fans. You are objective. What are you seeing out of these 5-4 Patriots here the last couple of weeks?
And we've been talking about this. We've been talking about as they move through and how the AFC is opening up now. You know, as we watch it, you're seeing the things. You see Kansas City is not quite Kansas City. You see Derrick Henry go down. There are opportunities now in the AFC. And New England it has as good a chance now to try to creep back in that battle as any. You know, what's interesting to me is watching how Buffalo handles this. You know, it's like you got this thing that you've always been afraid of, and you thought you had it whooped, and now it's coming back. That's going to be the battle, because Buffalo thought they probably had a couple of years run now, at dominance in the AFC East. And here comes New England, that old nemesis that always raised up. So that's going to be interesting.
As Michael Irvin on Gresh and Keefe. Yeah, Buffalo, in order to be the man, you have to beat the man, said Ric Flair. And that's where we are. Like, did you think 3 weeks ago, hey, the Patriots will be a half game out of Buffalo from behind Buffalo? Are you watching the same thing I'm watching? But yet, in the theme of any given Sunday, oh my goodness, the Raiders, the Bengals, and the Bills all might be receiving Christmas cards from the Patriots this year just from last week. See, with the Patriots now at 5-4 and a bunch of teams at 5-3, and now with the seventh team in the playoffs in the wild card, you're like, wait a minute. You know, this is the 3-4 weeks ago. You're like, hey, maybe the Patriots, as bad as they were doing, could have done this with Cam. I'll get to Cam later in the show. 617-779-7937 or the text line 37937. Do you think Bill Belichick is sniffing Coach of the Year if he continues on the path with this team the way they're going now, especially if they make a run into the wild card and into the playoffs? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yep, the Bengals, the Bills, and the Raiders. 3 teams that have gotten away from the run, and they got exposed from it last week. So all the stories and the yelling and the chants of let Matt cook, Bill was like, no, wait a minute. Because teams that abandon the run end up getting abandoned as the season goes on. You have to run the foot. I don't care if you've got this computer guru who can think up 58 ways 4 guys can run off of the line to catch a pass. If you're not running the ball, you're going to have problems. And early on, Damian Harris, it was like, oh, man, the fumble at Houston, the fumble against Miami. You're almost thinking, like, when he went out with that injury at Houston, you're like, is this guy, like, kind of done for the season? Because either injury or Bill's going to pull him off the field. Ramondre Stevenson, I mean, is he playing this week? Is he not playing this week? It was almost like a drinking game. This was just 3 weeks ago. And now with a Cleveland team coming in with virtually Baker Mayfield by himself as the offense, you have to say, my God, the Patriots must really be God's team to see how everything has fallen into place over the last week. Here's Hunter Henry talking about how this offense is starting to come together.
Hunter, do you think you only kind of scratched the surface with the offense collectively, that there's still a ceiling to reach?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we're always going to continue to get better and continue to strive to get more. I mean, we're all continuing to grow, I think, as a group. You know, I mean, like I said, we're new. We were new this year to this offense, and so each week that we get game reps is huge, and we continue to learn from things that we're not doing well, and able to do them better the next week. So that goes with all of us. I mean, I think at every position, O-line, tight end, running back, you know, receiver, quarterback. I mean, we're all continuing to get better every week.
Yeah. When a new team is coming together, the last thing you want to do is just start throwing the ball everywhere. Think about the red zone headaches. I remember sitting up there watching that Saints game going like, yeah, once they get to the 22, this thing kind of shuts down. That's almost forgotten history now. And because the Bengals, the Raiders, and the Bills got away from the run, who are 16th, 21st, 27th in rushing, Bill thought, hey, wait a minute. As those guys are trying to get shiny, hey, Josh, Allen, I need to improve my MVP stats. False. Welcome to Jacksonville. The Raiders, I mean, it's really like, hey, throw the ball to Darren Waller. That's all they do. And the Giants caught him sleeping. And the Bengals, oh, God. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, hand that ball off, get the victory, and have a quarterback who was probably more precise than even some of the veterans in the league right now. I've said that. Justin Hurd, thank you for being here tonight on WEEI Late Night. I know you're shocked to hear me even just say that. Not really, are you?
No, not really.
Yeah. Mac Jones has an acumen that's better than some veterans. If you said, hey, who's the better quarterback? Tyler Heineke in Washington or Mac Jones? You're going, duh. Just because of the ability to manage the game plus. Now, I don't want to, because game manager has such a negative connotation to it, but at the same time, when you've got a hothead like Buffalo who says, well, against Jacksonville, we're just going to throw it everywhere. No. A half game out of the division lead, and right now, probably due to some math, sitting in the 7 spot, nothing less than in the wild card. There's the Patriots. ESPN's Max Kellerman says, if the Patriots win this week against the Browns, the whole song and dance about this season changes.
Certain moments in sports that no one really talks about, but they change everyone's perception of the world, right? Patriots get to 6-4 by beating the Browns. All of a sudden, the whole outlook for the Patriots is going to be different after this game.
Yeah, you ever play King of the Hill when you were a kid? The Patriots are the young, strong kid that just showed up to the dirt pile. Oh, boy. They got big quick. And they're pushing a lot of teams off. If there are two teams that you do not want showing up in week one for the playoffs, right now would be the Chiefs and the Patriots. And keep in mind, the Patriots, well, and the Chiefs too, kind of technically, they're within a game or half a game of leading the division. And now you almost have to wonder, you're like, wait a minute. With the Bills feeling this pressure because by winning last week, they could have maintained their lead. It's almost like the Patriots wouldn't have really done anything special because the Bills would have just kept moving along. And so, as I've always said, the only good thing about Buffalo really is its wings and Rick James. They are going to have a propensity to get too cute, too fancy with it, and not play football when it gets cold. Now you're saying, hey, wait a minute. I like these Patriots against Buffalo in 2 games going into the early winter. Oh, a team that doesn't run the ball in Buffalo? Justin, I don't know if you follow O.J. Simpson on Twitter. I do, just because I have to admit, despite the man's flaws, he was my hero as a kid.
That's yours truly.
On
Twitter. Yours truly.
Yours truly, the juice. I wonder if that juice is O positive or A negative. Anyhow, he was even saying, after he had gone up to Buffalo to watch a game a couple of weeks ago, because think about it. The Bills are like celebrating O.J. Simpson as part of their, and he was, right? But like you really had him at the game. That's very bold.
Hello, Twitter world.
Exactly. Is it 2 T's in Twitter? It's 3 T's, right? 3 T's and an Akita? Okay, I'm sorry.
Hey, Twitter world, it's me, yours truly.
Even O.J. Simpson is saying the Bills are going to run into problems not running the football. And despite what you think of O.J., the guy used to be an every Sunday commentator. The guy was huge at one time. He knows what he talks about. But what do you know? The Browns are showing up with no Nick Chubb. And last week, the Browns had something to prove because of Odell Beckham Jr. and Sr. Jeez. See, last week it was all about getting Baker reassured that, hey, you are not the issue here in Cleveland, despite you having all these commercials, living in the stadium, and not really winning anything. And Baker may get to display that it could be him too in Cleveland that's a problem. I mean, here are 3 things that can just absolutely turn a sailing ship into a ship that's taking on water. 1, internal spats that go public. 2, contract extension talks versus picking up an option. And 3, believing that you have to win the game because your safety net isn't there. Mac Jones is the better quarterback in this Sunday's matchup. Let me say that again. Mac Jones is the better quarterback in this Sunday's matchup versus the Browns. Because he's not going to make big mistakes. In a win that wasn't really a pretty win from the arm perspective, it's a win. You know, that's where you kind of have to tell Barney Fife, Josh McDaniels to the side, hey, hand the ball off. Play action. Don't put him in shotgun on 3rd and 2. Especially if you just run for 8 yards. 617-779-7937 or the text line 37937. Still to come, we'll talk about the Celtics and their game tonight that just came to a final a couple minutes ago. Justin, you were screaming, weren't you, when you heard all that? I heard you screaming over there.
I was a little worried.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what they're. I found something fascinating about the Celtics that I will reveal coming next hour here on Late Night on WEEI. Back to the Patriots. Bill Belichick. This may be his best job ever. Well, since Week 1 in Kansas City, 2008. You know, what do we do next week? Matt Castle, you're in. That was a pretty good, but this one may be more impressive than throwing Matt Castle in there. This lines up perfect for his defense. Baker Mayfield sacked 11 times in his last 3 games and has no running game and probably thinks he's got to win the game. Not only do I think the Patriots win, they win convincingly Sunday.
They're without their starting center, too. Cleveland.
You know, I mean, why don't we just call Sunday's game Kill the Man with the Ball? Because when Matthew Judon gets those red sleeves on the Browns, that offensive line's going to look like Maroon 5. You get that? If you take red and brown, it makes maroon, and there's 5 off. Okay, I'm sorry. But that was good. It's going to be a bloodbath. Maroon-colored bloodbath. No running game. The wide receivers feel like they have to step up. It's still kind of the news. People are going to start saying, okay, hey, Baker, it was on you last week. You had no Chubb. You have no Kareem Hunt. You had no third-string guy who was really good 2 weeks ago. It's all on you, buddy. And your commercials will be playing in the middle of them, too. 617-779-7937 or the text line 37937. Here's Bill Belichick on the team playing together as one.
How good was it to see your defense play complementary football, pressure up front, you mentioned the run D, to the linebackers all the way back through the secondary today?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. You know, D-line did a good job. Linebackers, we had good pressure on the quarterback. You know, they hit a couple runs on us there. They had a couple wildcat runs and a bounce out there. You know, but again, they're a good, tough, hard-nosed football team. They showed that defensively. Those 2 guys on the edge are really fast, really explosive. They're a problem. Burns and Riddick and Brown inside. I mean, those 3 guys are. I mean, they're hard to handle. But you know, kind of stood in there and battled them. But defensively, it was a good, like I said, a good effort, and we were able to put the quarterback under some pressure. And I think, you know, most of the 2 turnovers, and we batted a couple balls, but the JC's interceptions both looked like they came with, you know, some pressure on him, and just a couple of the balls he had to throw away. So, you know, he's a tough guy to get down. We missed him a couple times in the pocket, but that's the way it's going to be with Sam. He's a big, strong kid that you got to wrap up back there. But yeah, thought our defense came to play today, and you know, played well. You know, helped our offense out, and saved some points on the 2 turnovers. So just held them to 3 points on both of those. And those are both good kicks by you know, Gonzalez. So it was, you know, we pushed them back a little bit, but not quite far enough.
3 weeks ago, I said this Patriots team was the best, worst team in the NFL. Like, could get you a little excited, but ultimately disappointed, like an expectation can. Now, the Patriots are the best team to make a serious run in part of last week's Any Given Sunday. And Bill Belichick may just be the coach of the year. All right, coming up on Late Night, next we'll hear more from Bill Belichick, some more members of the team, plus the Odell Beckham situation and why it didn't happen. I have some thoughts there, but right now, Justin, let's trend.
The Real Post-Game Show, this Sunday after the game.
Now here's what's trending on WEEI.
Trending now on WEEI and WEEI.com. The Patriots, they'll be playing Kill the Man with the Football, right, KJ? They'll take on the Cleveland Browns at home this Sunday.